Welcome to episode number 2 of the In This League Fantasy Football YouTube show. My name is Scott Bogman.
And I'm Nico Miatello.
I love how you dive your head in every time.
Gotta lean in, man.
I gotta say my name into this microphone really loud. So, if you don't know, we are the Fantasy Football YouTube show for inthisleague.com. You can find us there. You can find us on Twitter. I am at Bogman Sports.
I'm at Nico ITL, Nico with a C, not a K.
You can find our podcast. We have football podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud with the Welsh and I. We have baseball, we have basketball, and we have college football coming pretty soon. If you want to get a hold of us, you have any questions, my email is scottbogman@gmail.com, and Nico's is nicomiatello@gmail.com. Why don't you go ahead and spell your last name?
Miatello.
There you go. So just so everybody knows, if you didn't watch the last show, the first half is all normal fantasy football. Second half is going to be IDP stuff. And today we're going to cover camp battles and some news and all kinds of good football stuff. So let's get to the news here, Nico. What do you have first for us?
Well, the first thing is that every single player on the San Francisco 49ers has retired.
And the Welsh is loving it. Yeah, the most recent one was Anthony Davis. I don't understand. He's like, oh, I'm going to quit now, but I'll come back in a couple years. What the hell is that all about?
I don't know. I think we're going to go into next year with 31 football teams.
And the Niners are just going to fall off into the sea. That's it for them?
Just one season, man. They're going to need replacement players.
We'll play the Super Bowl here, and then this will never be filled again, this stadium. This brand new stadium.
That Super Bowl curse is almost more real than the Madden curse. Like, we had Bountygate with the Saints. We had the Cardinals QB situation last year.
And Spygate with the Patriots. Deflategate with the Patriots. Everyone hates the Patriots. All right. How about Adrian Peterson? I mean, he's going to be a Viking, right? Where are you drafting him?
I was deliberating that today. I think he'd be my 4th player off the board right now. He's still behind Lacey Charles and Le'Veon Bell, but that's about where I have him. However, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about, for moral reasons, taking him out of your fantasy league. Don't do that, please.
Well, I've done that with Mike Vick, but Mike Vick is also not Adrian Peterson, so it's a little bit easier to do. I get. You know what? If you can't root for a guy, take him off your list. I don't mind that at all. You know,
it has to be consensus, though. Every team in your league has to say that. It has to be unanimous decision.
No, I don't think it does. Like, if you just cannot root for a guy, take a different guy. I mean, there's gonna be somebody else there. You know.
Yeah. Sorry, that's not what I meant. I'm talking about people taking him directly out of the player pool and
out of the league.
Out of the league, no one can draft him.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, that's a bit much. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you don't want to draft him, that's fine. I understand.
You know what?
That.
Like, if he was taken out of society, he would be in jail, but he's not. He's still in the league. So, you know, I think it's all right. I think he's an idiot, but he realized what he did was a mistake, and it's over now. So, how about Devin McCourty moving a corner? That's a bad football move, but pretty good for fantasy, right?
Yeah. He is. If his twin is any indication, McCourty's are better in fantasy at corner, but he has not been a huge contributor at safety. That's because no one throws in his zone because he's a good safety, but he'll be tackling the catch a lot because he won't be a very good cornerback.
Yeah. I think the move from corner to safety is easier. You don't have to be as fast, you know, but you do have to tackle, and not a lot of corners want to tackle. How about Del Rio said that Khalil Mack is more physical than Von Miller?
Yeah, that's probably true, but it's weird. He is a great player, man. I'm really high on Khalil Mack. I'm surprised you don't agree with that, seeing as you're a huge Von Miller fan.
Well, I like Khalil Mack more, but Von Miller, I mean, I've watched Von Miller just absolutely dominate sometimes. But, you know, you're probably a little bit slower when you're having legal pot brownies in Colorado, right? So
yeah, I'm big on Khalil Mack this year. I think he has somewhere in the range of 80 tackle potential and maybe in the 10 sack range.
Yeah, Yeah, those guys, man, I don't know. Sometimes they just turn it on and they get 120 tackles in their second year. But usually, if you're
Mm.
going to be one of those guys, you do it the first year, right? And Cam Newton now has all of the money.
Every single dollar in Carolina now belongs to Cam Newton.
What
Um,
did he get? He got I know it was 63 million guaranteed, right? Was it
I
108
think
or 103?
uh, I think it's 103.6 if I remember correctly off the top of my head.
Over 100 is
Uh,
just a lot of goddamn money.
yeah, and the guaranteed money's huge too. I don't really think the contract has a lot of fantasy impact, but I do really like Cam Newton this year. He's definitely a top six quarterback for me. I'm not sure whether he'll be 5 or 6 yet, but he's up there.
Hey, Cam, your boys at ITL want 100 grand, and we'll tell everybody to draft you first overall every single time.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
all right, let's get into some of these camp battles here. The first one we have on deck is Devontae Freeman versus Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman opens OTAs as the first string tailback, but Dan Quinn says that they will absolutely battle for the starting job. Who do you think is going to get this one?
I got my money on Coleman. He's the better player as far as I'm concerned. Freeman reminds me a little bit of Jaquiz Rogers, who they had there before, who's a good complementary piece, but I'm not sure he could be a feature back.
I would say the same thing. Coleman is more talented to me than Freeman. Now Freeman has the experience, so if he starts the first couple weeks, I wouldn't be that surprised. But even if he's named the starter, Tevin Coleman's going to win the job by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Sometimes just rookies hit a wall, so always dangerous to take rookies. But I like Tevin Coleman this year. How about Bishop Sankey versus David Cobb? Cobb has been asked to lose weight, and Sankey is still working on footwork. So not a good progress report for either one of these guys so far. What do you think of this battle?
I have David Cobb by a nose, but I don't know if I take either of them. I'd keep an eye on whoever's named the starter and maybe pick them up after week one. But man, this looks like the worst running back battle, period.
You don't want to take one of these guys as your starting back. Like this is maybe a flex in a deeper league, but you don't want to be sitting around holding on to Sankey or Cobb because whoever wins the job could get beat out by the other guy during the season. So I don't know. I still
Yeah.
like Sankey, but it's like you like a no. So I'll go Sankey and you'll go Cobb for now.
Yeah.
This says it's a battle, but I don't know if it really is. C.J. Anderson
Mm,
versus Monty Ball. C.J. Anderson came in OTAs down 20 pounds, which is one of the things that the coaches said they wanted to see. I think all of the talk about this being split and it being a battle and everything is coach speak to get C.J. going. But they are splitting first team reps in OTAs. So what do you think of this
mhm.
battle?
Well, if Monty Ball gets a carry, period, I'm going to be surprised when it comes to. He is not very good. If they're 1A and 1B it has to be a participation award. Like, there's no way Monty Ball comes anywhere near CJ Anderson, in my opinion. I have CJ Anderson as probably a top 10 player, definitely a first round pick, and Monty Ball is not draftable to me.
It's a little dangerous to have him as top 10, but I'm right there with you. Just in case, I don't know, they see Kubiak see something he absolutely loves from Moneyball. I don't know what it could be. It's certainly not pass protection. And they have the oldest quarterback in the league, Peyton Manning, there. So I think it's got to be C.J. Anderson, and this is all just to get him jazzed up and going. How
Yeah.
about a three-way battle? It's okay if it's in a three-way. Don't forget Shane Vereen versus Andre Williams versus Rashad Jennings. It looks like Jennings is still a starter. Williams is a change of pace back, and Vereen is the third down and receiving back. I mean, is that
I'm
what you would say?
I'm not quite there. I'm really low on Rashad Jennings. I don't think he's a very good runner. I I think Andre Williams might end up winning this role and taking the first and second down work while Vereen takes the third down job. I'm a little high on Andre Williams. I have him, but relatively, of course, I have him as like a 10th to 12th round pick, and I'm happy to take a flyer on that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Andre Williams coming out of Boston College, but he doesn't catch the ball very well. I mean, he had like 12 catches last year, but he
Mm,
had ample opportunity to snap that job away, and he never did. Now, Rashad Jennings had like a couple rookie seasons that were just like Andre Williams. So maybe Andre Williams is kind of one of those guys. But regardless of who wins the job, I think that this isn't going to be a very good situation to be involved in. Maybe if you're in PPR, Varane can get you through some bye weeks or that kind of stuff. But I really don't want to mess with any of that.
I kind of like Williams, liken him to an Alfred Morris type back. I think he didn't have the O line that Morris had in his rookie year, but I think he could have a similar impact.
Yeah, I see the similarities there for sure. They're both big, bruising dudes. We just need Andre Williams to start doing the bat flip or the home run celebration.
Yeah.
So how about this next one? Joik Bell versus Amir Abdullah. Most people are picking Joik to start the year, even though he's not taking part in OTAs. He's coming off 3 leg surgeries in 12 months. Amir Abdullah is already drawing praise from Matt Stafford for his all-around running ability and receiving ability. What do you think about this battle?
I think I'm with you. I know you're a big Abdullah fan. I'm big on him too. He is a good pass protector too, which
Yeah.
can't be stated enough. That's going to keep him in a lot. Joik Bell seems mediocre to me at best. I'm not big on him, and I think he's a plotter, to be honest.
Well, he's okay in a pinch. That's what I would say
Hmm.
about Joik Bell, but I don't think he's really a starting running back. Apologies for my cat messing stuff up over here, but I Joik is going to start the year with the job, but it's not going to be long before Abdullah takes it from him. He's just a better back, to me
Yep.
anyway. Andre Ellington versus David Johnson. Ellington is said to look like he's 100% back healthy. David Johnson, a lot like Amir Abdullah, is drawing praise from his quarterback Carson Palmer. I think this is Ellington's job to lose, but I think the more we get deeper into the season, I think it's more likely like around week 10, week 12, where they just say we got to go with David Johnson. Ellington can't carry the load the whole season.
I think David Johnson, I'm a little higher on him than you. I think he can snatch his job away earlier in the year, maybe like week 4, week 5. He's a great receiving back, which is huge for a quarterback like Palmer, who seems to get hurt all the time. And he's big. He plays like a wide receiver out of that running back position, and I think he's going to be a very good player.
He does a lot of the same things that Ellington does, except for he's big. He can
Hmm.
probably take more punishment. So I'm definitely with you. Like, I think I would make him, first and second down back to start the year at the very beginning, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Bruce Arians is pretty old school. You got to earn it. So
Yeah.
Reggie Bush versus Carlos Hyde. I mean, you put this as one, but I don't really buy it. I think Carlos Hyde is the guy. I think Reggie can come in on third downs and maybe when Carlos is tired and stuff. But I don't think you really think that's a battle.
He's just been Reggie's been taking a lot of the first team snaps at OTA, so it's got me questioning. But I do think Carlos Hyde is the bell cow there. I have
Oh,
him
my leg.
up high.
Who am I? Oh, my leg. Oh, my hamstring. I'm Reggie Bush. Don't worry,
He is,
he'll retire. So
yeah, Carlos Hyde's is still a top 15 back for me. I'm high on him, but it it's worth talking about at least.
until Reggie Bush retires, like all the rest of the Niners. So I like what you did here. Not really battles, but players that can hurt some studs. So you had Alfred Morris and Matt Jones. Matt Jones was drafted in the 3rd round out of Florida. Jay Gruden says he's looked more versatile than expected. Are we worried about Alfred Morris's production this year because of Matt Jones?
See, I originally, when I put this down, I was thinking this was a battle, but then I had another thought that maybe Matt Jones is coming in to replace Alfred Morris next year, and they can just run Alfred Morris into because this is a contract season for him.
Right.
They can just run him like Dallas did DeMarco Murray last year, run him into the ground, give him 1,000 carries, and then have him get $4 million a year in the offseason from someone else.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like I like Matt Jones, and I think Matt Jones will be valuable if Alfred Morris should go down. But I'm with you. I think this is we're gonna churn Alfred Morris into the ground and then hope Matt Jones can pick up the reins next year. So this next one is funny to me. DeMarco Murray versus Ryan Matthews, or DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, and the word divide has been thrown around a lot in that city. But I mean, 97% to 3% is still a division of carries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Darren Sproles has been told that his role won't change at all, which was about around 100 touches last year. in 15 games. What do you expect between DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews? What's the split?
First of all, Darren Sproles isn't huge in this battle, but he's worth looking at in leagues if you include return yards. He's definitely a guy there. But I sort of see this as more of a DeMarco Murray had, what was it, 450 touches, including playoffs last year, and he might break down.
Yeah, I think it was 6,000 touches last year.
Yeah, approximately 6,000. So I could see maybe DeMarco Murray hurts himself a little bit earlier in the year, so they give Ryan Matthews a few carries here and there. I wouldn't draft Matthews, but I'd keep him on your watch list.
Is anybody else just tired of Ryan Matthews holding fantasy value? I am sick of it. I am so done with that guy. I just want to be done with him. I can't stand him. I'm over it. This last one for the running backs here. Matt Forte has Kendall Langford. Kendall Langford. I did it now. Jeremy Langford, Jacquizz Rodgers, Kadeem Carey, all behind him. Are any of these guys realistically going to eat into Forte's time?
Well, John Fox, as we've seen in Denver, John Fox and Adam Gase like to run every single running back, and then some random person like CJ Anderson gets the job late in the year. So it scares me a little bit. But Matt Forte is by far the best player. He'll catch less balls. He's not a first round pick for me this year. He's like a high second guy, but
okay.
I'm a little scared, but not really.
All right, I see.
How about you?
I'm not scared of it at all. I like Forte, and to me, he's probably still borderline, first round pick, and especially in deeper leagues, he is. But I'm not really afraid of any of those guys. Like once you see what you have in Forte and how much better he is than everybody else, Kadeem Carey I thought was pretty good. He was really good at U of A. So none of these guys are really going to eat into Forte's time. But he is a little bit injury prone. So I think if he goes down and then Kendall Jeremy Langford might get in there with Kadeem Carey, like that could be a little muddied if Forte should go down. I love your PSA here. Don't draft Tampa Bay or New England backs. Explain to everybody why we're not doing that.
These are the two biggest committees in the league. We're going to have Jonas Gray run for 200 yards, and then LeGarrette Blount fall into 4 touchdowns, and then someone else who none of us have ever heard of who played college in Canada up here is going to have the ball the next week in New England. So Bill Belichick's the worst for that.
He's the devil.
Yeah, it sucks. And then Tampa Bay just has a lot of not good running backs on their roster.
Well, they have the muscle hamster, and they have Charles Sims, who they say they want to feature, but is he a feature back? We'll see. And then they have Bobby Rainey.
Yeah, and none of them are good.
Yeah.
Not one player on that team.
I think Charles Sims could hold some value, but Doug Martin's going to get hurt, and Bobby Rainey is just okay. When Charles Sims gets hurt, Bobby Rainey will start. He always seems to get 3 or 4 starts. So I don't know. But
pick him up then. Don't draft him.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving on to the wide receivers here, we have the first one is Robert Woods versus Percy Harvin. Local radio in Buffalo says Robert Woods is in for a reduced role this season, which makes sense because the Bills have added Charles Clay, Percy Harvin, and LaShawn McCoy. The Bills have Percy on a 1-year deal. I don't know. So what do you like in this situation? Do you like not taking Bills receivers? Because that's what I like.
Yeah, I like not taking Bills receivers. If you're in the 13th round and it's a 15-round draft, I don't mind Robert Woods. I don't like Percy Harvin because he gets hurt all the time, or he'll just have a headache and sit out for 3 weeks. But the Robert Woods is definitely the better of the two, in my opinion, but neither of them are very good.
Right. Well, I think Percy's more skilled, but I think Robert Woods is the better natural wide receiver. I think if they're going with Percy, he'll get some – you would think maybe he gets some carries out of the backfield, but not with LaShawn McCoy. And the quarterback situation is just god-awful in Buffalo. So you really don't want Buffalo wide receivers not named Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, for sure. And barely even Sammy Watkins, to be honest.
Right. He's going to be much lower than he should be. How about Rashard Perriman versus Marlon Brown? Most have this is not a battle at all. They're saying Perriman is the guy, and Marlon Brown won't appear as more than the number 3 wideout. Perriman hasn't dropped a ball at OTAs yet. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
That report came out today. But Coach Harbaugh said it should be a big year for Marlon. So I know you're a bit of a Marlon apologist.
I am on Marlon Brown. To me, was Martavis Bryant before Martavis Bryant. He caught those 8 touchdowns in his first year. He came in, he had something like 60 targets, but 8 touchdowns on them. He's a big receiver. I'm doing a write up on Marlon Brown actually that made me go back through Mark Trestman's offense in the past and going back to like even his CFL days. Every time he has one of his top 3 receivers are 6'4", he peppers them with targets. And Marlon Brown's the biggest guy on that team, and he's very good at boxing players out.
Do you think that there's any situation where Steve Smith is not injured, but he's now the third wide receiver, and it's Marlon Brown and Brashad Perriman?
Probably by week 6, I think that
Oh, really?
almost
Okay.
guaranteed to happen. Yeah.
I like that too. This next one to me isn't that much of a battle. It's Marvin Jones versus Mohamed Sanu. Marvin Jones missed all of 2014, but he caught 10 touchdowns in 2013. Sanu had similar numbers in 14 to Jones's 13. Outside of the scores, he had half, but he led the league in drops last year. I think this job goes right to Marvin Jones if he's healthy. Don't you?
Yeah, I've just heard people talking about it. That's why I put it in here. Marvin Jones is definitely the better of the 2 players. Mohamed Sanu is really good for those gadget plays. The guy has an arm for a wide receiver. He reminds me a little bit of Antoine Randall, the former Steeler.
Well, I don't think he's that good, but
yeah, that's true.
he has no touchdowns thrown in the Super Bowl like Randall L does. I could tell you that much.
Again,
they'd have to win a playoff game to get there, but it's the Bengals.
Not gonna happen under Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison. You mean Marvin Lewis?
Marvin Lewis, definitely.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison is too busy shooting people in Philly bars. So,
yeah. But Marvin Jones, I like him this year. I have him as a later round guy, probably a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, maybe even a wide receiver 4 if you're in a shallower league. I like Marvin Jones as a late round guy. How about this one? Dwayne Bowe versus Andrew Hawkins versus Brian Hartline. Dwayne Bowe has said, just sit back and watch about him bouncing back. Well, we've been watching since 2010, and nothing's been happening, Dwayne. There's been nothing being said about Hawkins, which is typical. And Coach Pettin has he said he's impressed with Hartline so far, saying all he does is get open and catch the ball. Well, I hope so because that's his job. So, well, what do you think of this Cleveland mess?
I'm actually in the Andrew Hawkins camp. I'm a fan of his. If he graded out at like the 11th receiver on Pro Football Focus, around guys like Emmanuel Sanders and stuff. And last year he had Hoyer the Destroyer as his quarterback. So maybe that gets better with Josh McCown. He seems to throw the ball a little better than Brian Hoyer.
McCown is 36. 36.
He is an old man in football terms.
It's between him and Manziel. I mean, if Manziel sees the field, none of these guys will hold any value, right?
We'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I like Hawkins. I mean, Dwayne Bowe, we're waiting for it. It never happens. Yeah. And Brian Hartline, I mean, he's here to finish off his career and get a paycheck playing football, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think he's going to hold week-to-week value, and he never scores. I think he has 6 touchdowns in the last 4 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Dwayne Bowe was kind of like a touchdown-only guy who got 0 touchdowns last year. So.
Well, no wide receivers in Kansas City scored last year.
Not a single one.
The cupboard was barren. How about Victor Cruz versus Ruben Randall? Victor only played in 6 games before tearing his patellar tendon and missing the rest of the season. He has recently said that he's about 80% and that he only needs to build strength, which is nice. I mean, if it's not swelling up after you run or stuff like that is good. Randall's a number 2 starter for now, while Victor's rehabbing for sure. But what do you think about this going forward into the season?
This is, again, a battle I don't really want either of the players. I wouldn't mind Randall, who I have winning it in the 13th round, maybe somewhere in that range, the late guys. But Victor Cruz, I'm terrified of patellar tendon injuries. I didn't like him last year before the patellar tendon. Now I really don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, Victor Cruz is fun to watch, but the patellar tendon it's you nailed it. I mean, it's a scary, scary injury. So I think for this season, I'm letting somebody else take him and see what he can do. And if he starts putting up big numbers because ODB is getting all of the coverage, then we know Victor's back. But it's not going to be me risking it at all unless it's super late. Charles Johnson versus Mike Wallace. Both of these guys will get a lot of catches this season. It's more of a who's going to be Bridgewater's guy. Wallace
Yeah.
said that this system fits him better than Miami's did, which to me would mean more yards and touchdowns and less receptions. He's going to go deeper more. What do you think about these two in Minnesota?
I think out of any team in the league anywhere would have fit him better than Miami, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Tannehill cannot throw the deep ball to Mike Wallace. But that being said, I think Charles Johnson is the more talented all-around receiver. I'm not in the Mike Wallace camp. I loved him when he was in Pittsburgh, and then as soon as he left, I cut all ties. I'm definitely more of a Charles Johnson guy. I think he's a complete receiver. He's got speed too, and if North Turner likes him, I like him too.
Yeah, this one is the toughest one for me, and I don't like Mike Wallace at all, but he's done it before, and it's not like he had a horrible season last year. I think he just didn't fit in Miami, and if he's fitting better in Minnesota, I think things are going to go way better for him. So I'm going to take Mike Wallace, but it's not by a lot. I think both these guys will hold pretty decent value at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think Mike Wallace might have even been like the 25th receiver in standard last year.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's just it didn't work in Miami. He has to go find somewhere else, and that's what he's done. So we'll see if it works for him. The tight ends here: Crockett Gilmore versus Max Williams. Max is an extremely talented young tight end, and it hurts me to say because he's a dirty rat bird. But the jump is pretty big for tight ends. Gilmore added 15 pounds and is up to 275. To me, that says he's just going to be a blocking tight end. What do you think about this battle here?
Gilmore's also pretty athletic too, so I don't know. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I have Crockett Gilmore over Max Williams, but I have neither of them really draftable. And it's just because Max Williams is the rookie tight end. I'm never gonna probably go after a rookie tight end in standard leagues. I could see him having an impact, but not this season.
It's something I always want to do is take the rookie tight ends, and I always take one, and I always regret it. And I know I'm going to be taking stupid Max Williams this year, maybe, if I get desperate and I have to take a rat bird. But, I mean, I just hate it when they score because I don't ever like to see that. But I think Max Williams wins this job. I think he's too talented to stay off the field. But I thought that about Eric Ebron last year, and it didn't work out. And Jason Morrow has Geno Smith, so who knows? So Tyler Eifert versus Tyler Crawford, battle of the Tylers in Cincinnati here. Eifert got to play all of one game last season before dislocating his elbow and going out for the year. His second
that was a very gruesome injury.
Yeah, I did not like seeing that. And his second, the second season is where we tend to see the biggest jump for tight ends. So we are all expecting a lot from him, and that's kind of disappointing in fantasy terms. The Bengals have held him back and are gradually getting him back in OTAs. They don't want him to push it. Tyler Croft was a third-round pick this year. I don't think it's any question that Eifert is the guy. But this is the second time I've seen you put this on here. So you obviously have a little bit of love for Croft, right?
I think that they're going to be a run-first team, and I think Croft is the better run-blocking tight end. I don't think Eifert has that in his game. I think Eifert's going to be the more fantasy-relevant guy, but I think Croft might get more snaps. Which is
so at the end of the year they'll probably be pretty close.
I think Eifert will probably have more points, but I think he's not going to have a whole lot of points because Tyler Croft's going to be stealing away snaps.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I'm going with Eifert. I don't think it'll be close, but we'll see. How about you have Kobe Fleener versus Dwayne Allen? I think this is more of these two guys versus Dante Moncrief, however you say his name. Since the Colts, they don't want Luck to get popped. I'd assume both of these guys are going to be on the field a lot. Fleener has been Luck's guy since college, though, so I got to go with Fleener. What would you have to say about this one?
I just think Dwayne Allen's the more talented player. I have Dwayne Allen over Kobe Fleener. I do agree that he's definitely been his guy, but Fleener feels more like a third down pest to me than a real player. Dwayne Allen feels like he could break out. He feels to me the way I felt about Ladarius Green last year, which was I was very high on Ladarius Green, unfortunately. And Dwayne Allen, I think, could break out and have maybe not a whole lot of yards, but I could see him around 600 yards and maybe 10 scores.
Yeah, I think both these guys had 8 last year, and
Mhm.
I'd expect somewhere close for both of them. But if it starts going one way or the other, you might have to jump ship on it. If you have Fleener and it's going Dwayne Allen's way, you might have to jump ship, or the same other way around. If Fleener's getting all the red zone targets and Dwayne Allen's getting 50 yards a game, maybe you got to go Fleener.
Yeah.
So this one is a joke to me. Owen Daniels versus Virgil Green. Come on, Nico. I think both these guys will hold value, but it's Green. Green holds value when or and if Owen Daniels gets hurt. I know the Broncos have said they want to expand Green's role in the passing game, but he's played 4 seasons and he has 23 receptions and 1 score. So it's all about Owen Daniels in fantasy, right?
I see. I'm a little leaning towards Virgil Green's side. It would have been Hireman had he not tore his ACL, but Virgil Green is probably going to be more of a red zone guy than Owen Daniels at this point in his career. Owen Daniels did have the 2 scores against the Steelers last year, but he wasn't a very good red zone target. And Peyton tends to love his tight ends in the red zone, whether it was Dallas Clark or whoever. He likes to pepper those guys with targets.
Julius Thomas.
Yeah, I have a feeling Virgil Green could be one of those guys who gets you like
Sneaky, sneaky.
350. Yeah, 350 yards and 12 scores or something.
Okay, so just a simple red zone target. Well, we'll see if that holds up. I'll believe it when I see it, but I'll be big on Virgil Green if Owen Daniels goes down. But right now, to me, it's all Owen Daniels. So I think Demarius is going to get a lot of red zone targets. But
Oh, of course.
for the QBs here, we have Tyrod Taylor versus EJ Manuel versus Matt Castle. Just a shit show. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's just
Tire
terrible.
fire.
Right. All 3 of these guys are going to get a shot to win the starting job. I think Castle's going to win it just because of his experience, but I think Tyrod Taylor has the best chance to make a fantasy impact because we don't know what we have in him yet. I think we know that EJ and Matt Castle are both irrelevant as far as fantasy goes, but maybe if Tyrod Taylor gets there, maybe there's some type of spark. You know what I mean? Maybe he's like an Aaron Brooks for a little while, but I don't think I'm buying into any of these guys.
Or Cordell Stewart.
Cordell Stewart.
Cordell Stewart, yeah, maybe. But I'm kind of leaning towards Tyrod Taylor, and it's just because I want to see something different.
Right.
I've had about enough of Matt Castle, and EJ
Matt
Manuel
Castle.
he'd be really good if like receivers could catch with their feet, because that's exactly where he throws the ball every time.
He
He
needs a bunch of bunch of Bogman receivers, bunch of short
yeah
guys. That's what he
yeah
needs.
the little 5'4" guys.
5'8".
Um, well, yeah, but you might even be too tall for him. Um, but Tyrod Taylor, he's got speed. He's got a couple things going on. Rex Ryan seems to be in love with him, and if anyone's gonna start someone like Tyrod Taylor, it's probably Rex Ryan. We probably could even put Percy Harvin in this quarterback battle, to be honest.
Oh, that would be fun to watch.
Uh,
And I know you put Josh McCown versus Johnny Manziel here. This is a debate at all. Johnny can't even throw water bottles, and people have already said that he's looked lost in OTAs, and Ray Farmer is gushing about McCown. It's going to be a mess, no matter who wins this job.
yeah, for sure. I think Johnny Manziel has that factor that if he wins this job, maybe he can get a couple games with like 60 rushing yards where he like gives you a decent amount of fantasy value for that reason. But Josh McCown has a tendency to have awful games, like games where he just throws the ball directly to center field defensive backs. So if he has one of those and Mike Patton freaks out, I could see Johnny Football coming in.
Oh God, please say it ain't so. I mean, Josh McCown's cousin Ty Detmer used to have those games all the time. I always those guys they're like the same guy to me. You know, they're
Yeah,
the tall blonde quarterback throws a lot of picks, and they're always seem to be playing on a crappy team when they're starting because they're crappy. So no,
yeah,
thank you. I don't want to mess around with any of that, regardless of league size. If I'm just making sure if I'm in a 20-man league, I'm making sure I'm going back-to-back quarterbacks in the first round or something, so I don't have to wind up with one of those clowns. No, thank you.
yeah.
How about Ryan Mallett versus Hoyer, the Destroyer?
Hoyer
This
the
is
Destroyer.
probably the truest quarterback battle in the NFL this season. For some reason, I'm just not a Ryan Mallett guy. I seriously think it's because he thinks he's a rapper or something. I cannot stand his accent. I can't stand when he talks or opens his stupid mouth. I wouldn't call myself a Hoyer guy, but I think I have to go with Hoyer out of these two clowns.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is a Hoyer guy. Like
Maybe
maybe
Mrs. Hoyer.
yeah, that's the only person. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Ryan Mallett because he's got that big arm and at least he has like one thing. Hoyer doesn't even have that one thing other than the nickname Hoyer the Destroyer. So I can see Mallett maybe having an impact with Hopkins and Jalen Strong who can catch the ball over almost anyone. So I'm going Ryan Mallett. Maybe he's a sleeper, but I'm not too keen on either of these guys.
Maybe if Ryan Mallett wins the job and him and Jalen Strong and DeAndre Hopkins all have a rap album, then I'll be in there. But until that happens, no thanks, Mallett. I don't want it. I think the Texans, the Texans and the Bills and the Browns are all going to be pretty high in the draft and all drafting quarterbacks next season. And this one, Mariota versus Mettenberger, is a joke. Mettenberger sucks. This is Mariota's job. The Titans have already tailored the offense around him, and he's looked confident and better than expected in OTAs. No Mettenberger.
Yeah, you said it all pretty much. There's nothing else to say about him.
I was hoping you were going to disagree with me, but
oh no, I'm high on Mariota.
You're too smart for that. So you made some. So you have the quarterback discussion, quarterback questions here. I like it. Let's hear them. Fire them out.
Okay, first one. Who would be your top 3 quarterbacks if you were to draft today?
If I'm drafting right now, it's really Luck and Rodgers are 1-2, and then whichever way you order them, it doesn't matter. Then who is number 3? I think is the big question. I think most will still have Peyton. Some are going to have Wilson. Others will have Breeze, Roethlisberger, and Brady would be in there without the suspension. I'm going to go with Russell. He runs so much. He runs for touchdowns, and he has a new red zone threat, Jimmy Graham. I like Tyler Lockett, maybe spreading things out too. So I would go with Russell Wilson as my number 3. So
okay, so are you going Luck, Rodgers, Wilson?
I'd probably go Rodgers, Luck, Wilson. I like Luck a lot, but I think a lot of his value is tied into those huge bonuses for like 300-yard games because he had so many 300, 400-yard games, and I think Rodgers is just more steady Eddie. So
okay, I'm Luck, Rodgers, Wilson. So we got the same 3 guys, just a little bit of a different order. I think Luck, you've given him Andre Johnson and Philip Dorsett. I think this guy, he has damn near 50 touchdown potential this year.
Especially if Frank Gore goes down. Frank Gore goes down, he's going to be really, really good.
They're going to throw the ball every play almost. And it's just a little thing right now, but Rodgers has been nicked up these last 2 seasons, so that scares me a little bit. And how close those two are, it gives the advantage to Luck a little bit.
It does, but I tell you what, if you watch Luck last year, he was getting driven into the ground so many times, and he looked so tired after every single game. I mean, it's got to come to some breaking point. They got to get him a real rusher, and hopefully that's what they got in Frank Gore. I just don't know if he's young enough and his legs are fresh enough to be the guy on an every down basis. So
that's true.
So I like the question though, but I would put Wilson is definitely my number 3.
Me too. Okay, so my next question I have for you here is RG3. Would you say he's worth a flyer? What's your opinion on him?
He's the 21st ranked quarterback in Yahoo, which would make him like the last of a backups in a 12-man league. He's not for me. I mean, the guys around him are Carson Palmer. I'd have much rather have Palmer, Bridgewater, Dalton, and then the 2 rookies, Mariota or Winston. I'm taking any of those guys over RG3. I'm done with it. He's too risky. He's too injury prone. I'm out.
I'm a little higher on RG3 just because if he does put it together, his upside is higher than almost any of those guys. I'm not a big Palmer guy. I'm not a big Winston guy for this year. I think Winston's going to be a great quarterback, but I'm not huge on him this year. So I think I have him a little higher. I'll probably have him in my rankings around 16 to 18 range. And I think he has the chance to come out and have a big year.
The chance is there. I mean, he's got decent weapons around him. It's just I want something to happen every year with him, and it just never comes to fruition. So I'm out. I'm out on RG3.
Yeah, he's only a streamer for me, but he is a streamer nonetheless.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next question I'll ask you is about the guy we were just talking about, Carson Palmer. Is he more than a streamer, or is he just a streamer?
I think he's more than a streamer. Arians likes to throw the ball. As long as Palmer's upright, he's more than a streamer. I like to have someone better than him as my starter for sure. But in deep leagues, he can be a big payoff. And if you take him as your backup, maybe he's not, losing whoever your starter isn't going to hurt so bad. So I definitely like Carson Palmer, and I think he's more than a streamer. But I wouldn't put him in my top. I wouldn't put him in my top 8 for sure, and I'm probably not in the top 10 either. So he's probably around 14 for me. So if you're in a 14-man league, I think I would start him.
I'm lower on Palmer. His knee injuries do scare me a lot. And it seems like Arians quarterbacks have a tendency to get hurt a lot. Big Ben got hurt way more when Arians was around than Todd Haley. And Luck, I don't think he got hurt in the season with Arians, but he was getting hit even more than he is now. So that scares me a little bit. And I think this is a little sneaky thing that happened. This offensive line that Arians is building seems to be more of a run-blocking offensive line. They added Mike Upati and DJ Humphries in this offseason with a high pick and an expensive free agency signing. And both those guys are run blockers with not a whole lot of pass blocking acumen.
Well, anything's better than what they had. I mean, that line's been
true.
Bad for so long. I'd rather anybody. It doesn't matter. If you have experience in pass blocking, please come on in. I think they have to do that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that is definitely a point that needs to be made about Arians' offenses. He hangs those quarterbacks out to dry. And I think the only reason Luck hasn't gone down is because the dude's tough as nails, and he's young. I mean,
he built like a linebacker.
Yeah, and all those hits are going to add up at some point. They did for Ben, and then it's going to happen to Luck too. That's why I think they got to start throwing or running the ball a little bit more in Indy. So
yeah, I think they might be taking a step towards that in Arizona with these offensive lineman picks and the drafting of what's his name, David Johnson.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I do like Carson Palmer, but he is a bit risky. I'd rather have him as a backup for sure.
Yeah. So another question I figured I'd ask was your opinions on Drew Brees. Is he still elite? And how about Peyton Manning?
I'd put both those guys in the second tier. I wouldn't. I think Luck and Rodgers are elite, and that's probably it. I would put them closer to. I would. They're second backs now. I'm really afraid of Peyton getting hurt because he's gone through the surgery. He's 39, pushing 40. I'm afraid of him getting hurt. And Drew Brees lost his number one target in Jimmy Graham, and he has to deal with it's not like it's bad stuff, but just a younger core and not as experienced with him. So I'd put them in the second tier, not in the first elite tier. But they're both still really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Breeze is he does have weapons now though. Like CJ Spiller seems like the Sproles guy that he's been wanting these last couple of years since Sproles left. So I'm happy that he has that. So Breeze is still a top 5 quarterback to me. Not an elite guy, but he's still in that top 5. Peyton isn't there though. He goes way too high. He's like an 8th round pick for me, 8th or 9th round guy. He's back there for sure. And another thing I'm afraid of is, let's say they're not winning games, and they get late in the year. This is Kubiak's team now. Maybe he wants to try the new guy and let Peyton, who isn't a part of the system. Yeah, Brock Osweiler, who was a 2nd round pick.
Yeah, ASU. I mean, they loved him here in Arizona, and I don't know. I don't think that they would bench Peyton even if they were losing games, just out of respect for him. I think that he would still start out through the rest of the season unless he just physically was so bad he's throwing 4 to 5 interceptions every single game and he just can't push the ball 20 yards down the field. That's the only way without a broken leg or a knee tear or something that Peyton's getting scraped off the field for me. So I think that I think they're just in that second. Like I don't care where you would put them with those other guys I mentioned, like Russell Wilson and Roethlisberger. I don't care where you'd mix them in with those guys. Like if you want to go Roethlisberger, Wilson, Breeze, Peyton, that's fine. If you want to go the reverse order of that, is fine with me too. They're just the second tier. So, I like the next question here.
Yeah. I'll just read it verbatim. What do you think about the suspended Tommy touchdown? If it's 4 games, if it's 2 games?
I think we'll really just have to wait and see what's going to happen with the appeal. I think it'll go down to 2 games. So if it goes down to 2 games, I'm taking Brady where I'd normally take him, just nothing different at all. The same kind of thing with Le'Veon Bell. I think I'd take him normally where I'd take him. I would just make sure that I have a good backup. I think it affects more of your drafting your backup than it does you drafting your main guy. But if it's 4 games and it's a full month, it's a little bit dicier. You know what I mean? Because then it's, is he going to be in football shape? Is he going to have a rapport with all the guys? I mean, it's Tom Brady, so he should. But it's just a little bit dicier. But I think it'll go down to 2 games. But Goodell might want to make an example out of him.
See, I don't think it'll go down to 2 games. Not because Goodell's going to want to make an example, but because Brady will come back in Week 6, primetime football, against the team that snitched on him in the Colts, and he will throw 1,000 touchdowns, and it'll be must-watch television. So I have a feeling that that's the reason he made it a 4-game suspension. If anything, maybe it'll go down to 3, so he comes back against the Cowboys, which would also be a marquee matchup. But I don't think they'll put it down to 2 and have him come back against the Jaguars.
I still think it's going to go down to 2. I like your conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a 2-game suspension. I don't think it's.
Yeah,
that's it.
We'll see for sure. If the suspension does stay at 4 games for me, he's almost undraftable because he's already a slow starter normally. Brady's a great quarterback. I'm a huge fan, but he usually takes like 3 games to get into it. So if he misses the first 4 games, then takes 3 games to get into it, then all of a sudden you're seeing Tom Brady against a tough schedule going into your playoffs, and you might start your season, I don't know, 2-5. And
you're not going to get to the playoffs if you start 2-5 because you're gonna lose one down the stretch too. So unless your team just goes ham, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you a little bit, but I'm not as afraid of the 4-game suspension. I am, but I don't think I'm as afraid. I wouldn't make him undraftable. That's for sure. In any situation, I would just, if he's gonna have 4 games, draft Carson Palmer. And by the time Brady gets rolling, Carson Palmer will be on the bench with a torn up knee or broken face or, whatever he has. So,
yeah. Okay. So the last thing I want to bring up is, who do you like in the second year group of quarterbacks?
The second year guys it's basically Bortles, Carr, and Teddy, and because I don't like Manziel at all. So I think. I like Teddy, but I think most of Teddy's offense is going to be turn around and hand the ball to Adrian Peterson. So, I think I like Bortles out of that group. They added some weapons for him in Yeldon and Julius, and he looked pretty good down the stretch. And I think he's the most talented quarterback of these 3. I actually like all of these guys, but I would like to see more out of them before I would say they're draft worthy. So I think out of those guys, I would take Bortles.
What's your opinion on Carr?
Carr's good. I just don't think they have enough around him. I mean, they got Amari Cooper and crickets. That's it. Yeah, I'm not a big Latavius Murray guy. Even I like him, but he's okay. It's not the making of a good offense in Oakland.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think most talented out of the group, in my opinion, is probably Derek Carr. I'm a big fan of his. He's got a lot of arm talent. And I think his brother was talented too, but he got sacked like 70,000 times
God,
in
he
a
got his
season.
brain rattled that first year, and he was just never the same guy.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I see both Carr and Teddy as guys who you could stream if you're going that route with your quarterback. I think Teddy could have a big season because I think the Vikings are much improved. I have them as a sleeper playoff candidate. I think maybe even they could win the division, but that'd be close. Um, and Bortles, I'm not as high on. He has so many options, but I feel like none of them are any good. Like he's got a lot of third receivers and Allen Robinson, who I think is like a number two. If Justin Blackman was coming back, I would have Bortles a lot higher on this list, but I'm not a huge Bortles fan right now.
I agree with you. I really like Julius Thomas in the red zone. You
Hmm.
know, he gets open even, and I think he'll be better than most people expect, but still not. He's not going to be a Pro Bowler again. You know, he's not playing with Peyton anymore. But I do like his options, and I think that Bortles is a guy that hopefully in his second year will be able to do more with less. He just reminds me of Ben. He reminds me, and
Hmm.
I think that's why I like him. You know, I'm complete
Yeah.
bias, but that I think that's why I like him. But all right, so let's move on to the IDP portion of the show now. Just to let everybody know, we are going to have an IDP listener league. So the way to get into that is leave a comment in the comment section below and then email me, scottbogman@gmail.com. Let me know you left your comment, and we will get you in the league. It's up to 16 teams if we get that many teams, and it's going to be deep IDP, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. At least two players for defensive backs, defensive linemen, and linebackers, two at each position.
So at least 6 IDPs. So that's
Yeah, and
pretty
probably a
decent.
flex too.
Okay, I like it. I like it. So 7
Yeah.
IDPs. So if you think you want to try out IDP and you don't want it to be for money or anything, go ahead and do the listener league with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. So much fun, right?
So very much, so much fun. That could even be the league name.
The So Much Fun YouTube League. I like it. That's
Yeah,
done. That's what it is. So we're going to talk
sounds
about
good.
some defensive camp battles now. I mean, we're not going to go as in depth on these because they're defensive battles. They're some of these are easier to figure out. So the
Hmm.
first one here, we're going to start with defensive backs. Robert Alford versus Jalen Collins for the Atlanta Falcons. This spot is going to be a problem for Atlanta no matter who gets the job. Collins sat out rookie camp. He's already hurt. He's only played 10 games in college, so it's going to be a tough
Yeah,
transition for him, even though he's super athletic. And Alford, they've already talked about transitioning him to safety. So,
yeah.
I mean, what do you think about this job?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna start with Collins, who I'm gonna get in draftnik mode a little bit. I was very low on Collins through the process because LSU is famous for good defensive backs. You always have good defensive backs coming out of LSU. And if there's a guy who's only played 10 games, only started 10 games there, there's probably a reason for that. If they can seek out this talent and they see this kid and they say, he's not good enough to start for us, he's probably not good enough to start for an NFL team. So I'm going to go Robert Alford, who is not a very good corner, which means
He's
playing
good.
across from in IDP, playing across from Trufant, who is a great corner. I think he doesn't get talked about enough. Trufant's in the Sherman Revis category for me. That guy's amazing.
I
So I
saw
think
on Pro Football Focus there are only 2 guys to allow less than 50% completion rates, and one of them was Richard Sherman.
yeah, yeah, it's ridiculous. Robert Alford being a bad cornerback, that's going to be very good for your fantasy leagues. He's going to be tackling a lot and probably barely breaking up passes.
Yeah, speaking of tackling a lot, Charles Tillman versus how do I say this guy's name, Nico? Is it Ben Wickery?
You said it right. You
Oh,
said it
look
right.
at okay, look at me, I'm so talented. It's going to be Tillman's job at the beginning of the year for sure, but he's getting older and he's injury prone. He's only played in 10 games in the last 2 seasons. Plus, Ben Wickery looked pretty good down the stretch. So
Hmm.
I go Ben Wickery for more starts, but you're going to have to wait. He's going to be like a free agent ad.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Ben Wickery, especially across from Josh Norman, who's a good cornerback. I doubt he'll get targeted a lot. So Ben Wickery is going to have a lot of targets. Charles Tillman, if he does keep that job, is always a threat for forced fumbles with his punching of the ball. So that would be good if he actually got that job, but I'm not sure he will.
Right. The next one is Brock Vereen versus Adrian Amos. Vereen graded out very poorly last season, below average and
He is
54th
bad.
amongst safeties. But I think it'll take more than a fifth-round rookie to unseat him. But it is a battle because he was so bad last season.
Yeah.
So what do you
I'm
think of Shane Vereen's brother?
I think I might be better at safety than Brock Vereen, to be fair. He is I think Adrian Amos is gonna win this battle just based
Man,
alone on how terrible Vereen was last year. People were running around him. He was playing like the defensive backfield there is terrible, but he was the worst one, which is saying a lot.
maybe they'll
Adrian
move him to
Amos,
running back. Can he catch?
uh, probably not as good as his brother. Um, Adrian Amos is a big hitter. I can see him not obviously not as good, but in the similar role to Cam Chancellor, coming down by the line and making an impact there. And he's got good hands. So I can see him making an impact. Maybe he's worth a late round look in your IDP leagues.
Next one is Tramon Williams versus Justin Gilbert. The Browns gave Tramon Williams a lot of money, 21 mil over 3 years. I don't think they gave him that money to sit. However, I think when they are going with three defensive backs, or three cornerbacks rather, I think Williams is going to kick inside because he has experience in the slot. But Justin Gilbert was god awful. They were beating him like he stole something last year. What do you think of that battle?
I think Justin Gilbert is they drafted him early, so I think they have got some faith in him. They want him to work out. Tramon Williams, I've never been a huge fan of. I sort of for some reason hate every Green Bay defensive back, but we'll get to that later.
Well,
Um,
I know why.
Micah Hyde's the worst. But anyways, Justin Gilbert is the kind of player who, if he gets an interception, he's a threat to bring it back because of how athletic he is. So I'm considering him, especially across from Joe Hayden and with Tashawn Gibson, who's a very good safety as well on the field. He might get targeted a lot if he comes out. I could see him maybe winning that battle, but you are right about Tramon Williams making a lot of money, probably not to sit.
Yeah, the next two here I'm going to kind of combo. It's Kevin Johnson versus Jonathan Joseph and Terrence Newman versus Trey Waynes. I think this is the rookies versus the veterans, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about both of these guys?
I think Trey Waynes will probably win his job, and that's an important job too because Xavier Rhodes is also a great corner. So whoever's opposite him will probably get targeted a lot. If Trey Waynes wins that job, how quarterbacks like to pick on rookies, he could have a lot of opportunities for interceptions, and he does have good hands. Then Kevin Johnson versus Jonathan Joseph. I'm so happy that the Texans drafted Kevin Johnson because I was afraid the Steelers were going to. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I don't think he's the kind of guy who will shadow you all around the field and then not make a play on the ball, which is awful. So I still have Jonathan Joseph. I guess we're talking about two former Bengals, but with Jonathan Joseph and Terrence Newman. I have Jonathan Joseph winning that battle slightly.
I think the veterans will win both starting jobs to start, but I think at the end of the season, they'll get torched enough to where the rookies are starting. And I think that's the way it is with most defensive players coming into the NFL. They're usually going to sit and learn a little bit, but then it's just going to be almost an emergency situation where we got to put the rookie in because the veteran sucks. So speaking of the veteran sucks, D'Angelo Hall versus Rashad Breeland. I swear to God, Brashad Breeland, I loved having him at the end of last year because he couldn't cover anything with a blanket, and he had a million tackles.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I sure hope D'Angelo Hall doesn't get healthy so Breeland can, get beat like he stole something again. I love that saying. It's from Remember the Titans. But I love taking Breeland because he's terrible.
See, and I think D'Angelo Hall might be even worse.
But he doesn't
So
tackle. Breeland will
he
at least
doesn't
tackle.
tackle. Yeah, that's true. But he does pick the ball off. So he's a little bit of a threat there. Didn't he have like 4 interceptions in a game or something once?
Yeah, 4
He's
returns. Yeah.
yeah. He's a pretty good option for that. I have Brashad Breeland winning the battle because he was good at points, but god awful at other points.
Yeah.
So I have him winning that battle probably, but he's definitely a guy you want in
I think
IDP
Breeland
leagues.
had like on Pro Football Focus was like -24. He was
Yeah.
like, and that's awful if you're not familiar with Pro Football
Yeah, that
Football
is
Focus
very bad.
numbers. So moving on to some of the linebackers here, David Hawthorne versus Stephon Anthony. I think it's the same rookie thing. I think Hawthorne gets the job at first, but I mean that's a first round inside linebacker. He's gonna get the look and more tackles by the end of the year, right?
Yeah, I think Anthony might even win the job straight out of camp. I think he's just a physical specimen, and David Hawthorne is old and not very good,
They're
to
moving
be
him from
fair.
outside into inside because he's not fast
Yeah.
enough to play outside anymore. So
Yeah, he's not a very good player. I think Stephon Anthony will make an impact here. He's a guy who can force fumbles, who can break up passes, and get after the quarterback from the inside linebacker position, which is quite valuable.
how about on our team here, Ryan Shazier versus Vince Williams? Vince Williams was good last year, but I think you got to give your first round picks some opportunities. And barring any type of injury, this will be Shazier's job to lose. I think they'll both play though.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little bit afraid for Lawrence Timmons right now because I think both these kids are really good, and Lawrence Timmons costs a lot. Vince Williams is a very good run stuffer. He gets downhill very well, which is surprising to you as he has very bad hips. And Shazier is good at covering tight ends. He's that kind of twitchy guy. He's the kind of guy who's going to get you either 20 tackles or 0 tackles though.
Right.
So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with them. I do have Shazier there, and I think he's worth a late round flyer in your middle
Yeah,
linebackers.
maybe your last linebacker picked. I agree with you. Manti Te'o versus Denzel Perryman. I think Perryman is more likely to push Donald Brown than Te'o, but he may be the best linebacker of all three of these guys. So he should definitely see a lot of playing time his rookie season.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys also like Anthony, but even more so than Anthony, who's going to force fumbles. He's a big hitter. He fills the gaps very well. Manti Te'o, it was a nice project, I guess. I thought he was going to be good coming in the league, but he has not looked
Well,
very
he's
well.
so good in college, but it's just
Yeah,
that death of his girlfriend, right, has just messed him up for
hurt
forever.
his
I think.
heart.
I just don't think there's any recovering from that. And if you don't know, that's a joke because he got catfished and never actually had a girlfriend. So I'm not a horrible, horrible person. The last one in the linebackers here we have, or not the last one, Akeem Ayers versus Jolon Dunbar. I think we'll see enough of both of these guys that neither one should be on your team. You'd have to be really deep to want either one of these guys, right?
Yeah, I think maybe later in the year, Akeem Ayers will start to take away the job because he's good at getting after the quarterback, which is going to make a difference seeing as they have like five guys actually up front who can actually absorb blocks and do that kind of stuff. So Akeem Ayers, I think, might be worth an ad about week 8 to week 10, but I don't see either of these guys making a
Keep an
big.
eye on him, I would say.
Yeah.
This is the last one. Jelani Jenkins versus Spencer Paysinger. I think Jenkins played well enough to earn the job, and Paysinger will probably rotate with Jenkins and McCain at outside linebacker for Miami. What do you think of those guys?
I'm actually a bit more on the Paysinger side. I think he was the best player on New York's defense towards the end of last year, and I think they got him in free agency for very cheap. So I can see Paysinger making a bit of an impact. I'm not sure how great he'll be on your fantasy teams. I see him as about probably an 80 to 90 tackle guy, which is serviceable but not great.
And I like this. You have what the fuck is going on with, or what the fuck is going to happen with Clay Matthews? I think he's going to quit the NFL and make 7 more Magic Mike movies.
We can hope. Fuck Clay Matthews, but um, I'm not sure if he's going to play inside, if he's going to play outside. They had 2 chances to go get an inside linebacker in the draft. They used neither of those picks to go and get an inside linebacker. So maybe he's staying inside. If he's on the inside, he's worth the flyer, maybe. But I'm so confused as what's going on with that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty good. Like, I mean, I'm never going to draft him, but he's definitely
Yeah.
a draftable guy. So only a couple on defensive linemen here. We have Jeremy Mincy versus Randy Gregory. I think both these guys can see significant field time if the Cowboys are serious about moving Mincy around, like they said they're thinking about doing. What do you think of that one?
I think this would be a much more important battle if Greg Hardy wasn't suspended for 10 games, because I think Randy Gregory is good at getting after the quarterback. So if you can keep him in, he could make an impact for this team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate drafting rookies, especially on the defensive side. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
stay away from him. Akeem Spence versus Henry Melton. How is this a question? Henry Melton went to Texas. So it's obviously him. Spence is going to get suspended for his marijuana incident anyway. And I always go with the Longhorn. Hook him. That's right.
I'm a big Melton fan too, but Akeem Spence seems to be in favor with that team. I think
Not when he's getting suspended.
yeah, yeah, well they still seem to like him a lot. So I would want Melton there, and Melton actually is one of the few defensive tackles who is rosterable because he does get out after the quarterback from the 3 technique spot. So I like Melton, but we'll have to wait and see.
So you're taking Melton? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm taking
Okay.
Melton.
All right. Well, we can have a show next week then. So speaking of next week's show, next week is going to be running back by committee, how offensive linemen impact the running for those running backs, and the IDP top 50. So that's going to be a very interesting show. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube show and
like this video.
Follow us on Twitter at Bogman Sports, at Nico ITL. You can follow the co-owner of the website, The Welsh, at Is It The Welsh. You can follow our boy Honcho at Honcho_ITL. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff on the horizon, especially for football and college fantasy football. And if you're interested in that, is coming very, very soon. So you can find all of that stuff on inthisleague.com, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you later.
Go Steelers.
Yeah.